Hi, good morning. It is Sunday, January 12th, and I am reflecting on A Course in Miracles, day 10 or day 11, lesson 11. And this time the lesson was to close your eyes. Again, notice the thoughts coming in and floating through your mind, and then repeat, my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. That might sound kind of like a downer at first. I was like, oh man, and you know how much I love meaning, making meaning and connecting dots and seeing what meaning emerges between the dots. And so I felt this twinge of like resistance in my mind. Oh my God, that cat, look at him. Yeah. We see you. And then Matt's like, if they didn't have claws, this wouldn't be a problem. I'm like, don't you dare talk about no claws. When I went away 2 years ago to massage school, it was like 5 months gone. And I'm like, I told him before I left, I'm like, if I come back and the cats have been declawed, oh, he would never. But there were some teasing moments where he's like, we'll see. And I was like, no. Anyway, I've had declawed cats before, but that was before I was aware of like what they go through, those poor little paws. And like, I just couldn't do that now. No matter what they destroy over there. So, and they've destroyed everything in our house. This is why we can't have nice things. Okay, sorry, sidetrack. Or is it? We'll find out. So I'm sitting here like, my meaningless thoughts show me a meaningless world. And what's weird about this one is in the very beginning, before it even tells you how to practice, it says, okay, I'll just read the whole first paragraph. It's all related here. This is the first idea we've had that is related to a major phase of the correction process, the reversal of the thinking of the world. That's like deep. Tell me more. It seems as if the world determines what you perceive. Today's idea introduces the concept that your thoughts determine the world you see. Now, a lot of us are aware of that. If you're on this journey, thoughts become things. We've probably all heard that. Thoughts become things. Thoughts become things, meaning thoughts are intangible. They don't exist, yet it turns into things in our material world. To have thoughts is to start to manifest something in our life. So to really not understand in the brain sense, but to really internalize that this stuff in my head really does turn into something. So I better be careful what I think. I better be aware, not careful. Maybe that's just a little too like that hesitation energy, but just be aware. All the good and the bad that you want to manifest in your life comes from thoughts initially. Like this t-shirt, somebody said, I'm going to make some plain t-shirts and sell them to screen printing places so they can make t-shirts for people who dream up designs like this. Aw, it's all faded. This is I think this is from 2019. It's a whole other story. Remember I was talking about my second family in California? We started it's so dry in my house. It's so dry in the winter. We started a chili cook-off in 1999. You guys, 1999. And that's why my heart hurts. They're no longer doing it after, I think, COVID. after that 20-year anniversary, maybe. 20 years, just a homegrown chili cook-off that grew from like a dozen people to hundreds of people would go. And it's a big deal. And we would get t-shirts made. Well, this is the last one I have, and it's getting all faded. But that came from the brains of the people I love. Like, they manifested this with their thoughts and said, yes, we want to create t-shirts for people to have this memory. And then we also want to put this design on it because it's really cool. Like, you have to see the back. I don't know if we can see the back. I'll just sort of do that. Anyway, so that's what thoughts become things. And even if it's not in the literal, like, I'm going to create this thing, it's like unintentionally thoughts become things. So I really love that they really say to that today's idea introduces the concept that your thoughts determine the world you see. If we have some negative thoughts based on like just our life circumstances have kept us a little down, speaking from experience in my life, at times, my outlook of the world is going to be a downer. And then that kind of leads to me seeing all the downer things in life. Like, man, look at all the poverty and the war and just the like inability to do anything about it. And it's like, well, that energy maybe of the inability to do anything about it is like, that's probably playing out somewhere else in my real immediate experience. Like, I feel like I just can't, maybe I'm like, I haven't found my passion yet, you know? And therefore I feel like it's in there, but I just haven't found it, and therefore I can't make strides. And then I'm like distracted from that, so I look out in the outside world and I'm like, I just can't do anything about this, and it frustrates me. The war and the poverty and the social media just, bleh. I don't know. I do feel like that's all related, you know, because I feel like if we can start to make little baby steps in our personal life toward feeling that fulfillment, that passion for life, the outlook changes, the vibration raises, we start to have a little like positive view looking out, and then we're like, yeah, I can do little things to make the world a better place, you know? And then those things snowball. So I feel like this thoughts become things is where this is starting to tell us, really like bring it into the body by saying, close your eyes and say, my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. Still feels like a little bit of a downer, but it's not meaningless as in the sense of like apathy, like, ugh, nothing means anything anyway, why care about anything? No, it's more like this neutral space that develops by, again, building on yesterday, where like I started to feel like yesterday's words that we repeated to ourselves were, my thoughts do not mean anything. And that was kind of more neutral, right? It's not like this word meaningless where we've got this negative or downer kind of twinge to it in our meaning in this culture. But it's like, because, you know, we value meaning. So it's like to say something's meaningless is kind of like, oh, what a bummer. But no, I don't feel like that's what they're saying here. And I don't feel that when I practice this. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. And then it says, open your eyes and kind of look around. And then you just still have that sense, like I started to feel yesterday, of like equanimity, where things start to like lose their emotional charge. Like, oh, I love all this stuff. Remember I said oh man, I have a lot of stuff. And it's just stuff. It doesn't mean anything except for what I put into that meaning. Like, I love this. I love these little cards, you know, because like I get to do my passion with them. And then I'm like, oh, my little babies, talk to me. So I put meaning into them. You might look at them and be like, oh, they're just paper. So anyway, I just feel like this is like building on that. Everything is meaningless in that neutral way, in that equanimitical way. Equanimity way. Yeah, when I try to turn nouns into adjectives, I'm having problems. Speaking of, this came to mind at some point between last night and this morning. I can't remember because time is weird and not real at all. I keep saying that lately. Time isn't real. And people are like, okay, weirdo. Anyway, like, they don't get it yet. Time isn't real. So anyway, I kept having this thought that came back to me from a part of my ayahuasca journey. And I know I keep saying I'm going to do ayahuasca videos. They're just like, I guess just going to be sprinkled from there when I started doing them last week to infinity. Because you know what I learned in that week? It would last me till infinity to describe it. And then I'd revisit and describe it in a different dimensional layer of things and how it means to me then. And it's infinity. It's like a portal to infinity. The downloads and learnings in an ayahuasca journey, man, if you've done it, you know exactly. IYKYK. If you know, you know. I do not endorse running out and doing ayahuasca. Disclaimer. But if you've heard the call, you've heard the call. And you know, if you've heard the call, you know when it's time to answer the call. That's what they say. And it's true. I heard the call. I'm like, I didn't even know there was such a thing as a call. My classmate, one of my classmates at massage school had started to hear the call at the same time. So weird, huh? Like, I know we were both in Costa Rica, so like, that place is magical in its own way. But I was like, what even is ayahuasca? And I'm thinking about it more and more. It's coming into my awareness through different channels. I can't even remember what they were, but it didn't just like, I didn't invent it. Ayahuasca, I better Google that. What is that word? No, I'd started to hear it. And then this, like, the call. And I was like, whoa, I feel like this really weirdly deep knowing that it's like I need to explore this. Sure enough, my classmate, who we weren't like connected yet, we weren't bonded yet, other than the bonding that happens really quickly in a class of 40 students when you're in the melting pot, the cauldron of massage school in another country where you're doing it 24/7. That'll like stir you up together. So anyway, I didn't know this was going to be the origin story of ayahuasca. I have to remember, leave breadcrumbs of the thought I had this morning, of that part of it that had to do with my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world and not being able to turn nouns into adjectives right now. Okay, remember that. We're at 13 minutes. I'll have to rewind and watch that if I can't remember. So anyway, this is all related to A Course in Miracles reflection, by the way, if you want to hang in there. If not, that's fine. If you're like, girl, I'm done, that's fine too. So anyway, we got together somehow and started talking about it. We had started this little writing group. We love poetry and creative writing. We started this group meeting like Sunday morning at 5:30 in the morning on the beach. Like, who in their right mind would want to join us at 5:30 in the friggin' morning on a Sunday when we busted ass all week at massage school, have exams to study for on Monday? Like, there is zero time for this. And yet we made it work, and it was beautiful, and we did it for months that we were there. And so we did start to bond, you know, and then this ayahuasca thing started coming about, and we're like, yeah, are you doing it? Well, I'm thinking, are you? And I'm like, well, I'm thinking about it too. Like, and then we were like, yeah, let's do it. And then we both were independently researching like which experience we really wanted for our first time. The same one kept coming to us, and we're like, yeah, me too. And then we're like, I'm doing it. It's freaking expensive, but both of us felt like we had to, both independently, and then the togetherness of it was just like well, that's kind of nice. We can just ask to be roommates while we're there. What a bonus, you know? It wasn't like we were waiting for the other one to do it and weren't going to do it if the other one wasn't. I think we were each going to do it. It was just a bonus that we both wanted to, and we could be roommates, you know? kind of go there knowing, having a little bit of comfort in this place where there was not going to be a lot of comfort. The surroundings were comfortable. That's part of the expense. Like, you're taken care of. You are watched over. Your hands are held every step of the way. Literally do. Like, they will, like, take care of you. And that's what I wanted for my first experience. And so we did it, and it was like, ooh, amazing. And then there are a lot of stories related to the whole week, but how it relates to A Course in Miracles today, maybe, we'll see, is I was laying on my mat. You've probably heard that if you haven't done it yourself. A lot of them will have like a nice mat, like mattress. Ours were like lovely, smaller, like than a single size bed, maybe probably a little less wide, a little less long, but plenty of room for even a large, tall body. And so for me, it was a good amount of space. I felt supported. It was thick. Then you have other bolsters, a chair that you can like set on top of your mat, like just like a backing, and that you could sit in to sit up, blankets, and then a whole like wicker basket of like tissues and like where you could put your things, and like then your vomit bucket. Yes, that's a real thing. Only had to use it once and just for a little bit. Like, I think I talked about that, or I will. Like, there was once where I'm like, I'll push the envelope. I could do a little more tonight. And then Spirit was like, the universe, whatever that was like, nope, you puked up just that extra amount you took. Girl, you're staking with the original dose, and that's all you need. This is going to be a gentle but deep, profound, and a little bit uncomfortable ride. It wasn't the kind for me that was like the physical agony of it. It wasn't that, because I prepared my body. At least that's what there's a knowing there that there's a reason why I was so intent on doing that physical cleansing for 6 to 8 weeks, more like 8 to 10 weeks prior. I really took it seriously. Oh, no caffeine or anything. And it was worth it. If you do it, I'm not saying you should, no endorsement here, but if you do it, really, really do that physical cleansing part, you'll get so much more. But everybody's different. Some people did the physical cleansing and still had physical discomfort. Some people didn't do the cleansing and didn't have physical discomfort. So, I'm just saying that's what my knowing was like, I needed to do it. Something deep in me said, do the physical cleansing, the dieta, before you go. That wasn't the point of this. Anyway, somewhere on, I forget what night, I'd have to go back to my journal, and it's like something, there was this no self that happens, like the self, you realize it's not real. I say you, not everybody has the same realizations by any stretch. But for me, I had this realization, this like profound physical understanding that the self wasn't real. The self wasn't real. And that there was just a happening nature to things. Like things just, there's a happeningness. And then like the guy next to me, his name is Justin. We didn't obviously know each other that well. He just happened to be the guy on the right of me. And he was suffering from intense migraines for as long as he can remember, at least in his adult life. Or just, a long time. And I think he was there to try to understand those better, to try to like release them maybe. And then that's what he shared anyway. I'm not making that up. He did share that. And so at some point along the way, like my thoughts went to him, and usually they just kind of stay with yourself and what your own experience is. But as the Shipibo shamans, the maestros, were coming around the circle singing each individual song to you, like you have your own personal song they sing, and you can hear them as they come. They feel like so far away, even though the room's not that big, but it's so beautiful, and like the songs feel so far away, and then that sound, that beautiful, beautiful sound gets closer and closer. And the intensity of the songs change as they go from person to person because the songs are different. And they know exactly what energy, this kind of energy, is needed for that beautiful soul on their journey. What are they experiencing right now and where are they going? These maestros understand everything about what we need, what our spirit needs. Whoa. Like it is otherworldly, because this song is the medicine. I firmly believe when they say, like back in the day, in their culture, they told us, like, through the translators, of course, they don't speak English. They told us that in their culture, they didn't even, the drinking of the ayahuasca concoction wasn't the medicine. The song was the medicine. The people would come to the maestros, to the shamans, to hear the music, to hear their personal song, and that was the healing. That was the healing medicine. And I truly believe it now after going through that, because, and this is a different story, I'll save that. Put a pin in that. Minute 21. Put a pin in it. The medicine. The song is the medicine. The song is the medicine. Oh, my brains. Anyway, let's get back to Justin. He's right there. I hear the shamans come, like one of them coming forward, like through the ether, the song getting like changing and weaving and getting a little louder, Justin's over here, but by this point, the self had dropped a little, at least a little, felt like a lot. And I was like understanding things in a download sort of way of like, and then I sort of looked over in the pitch black, like I couldn't see him like at all. It's pitch black. You can't see a dang thing, nothing, unless somebody turns on a little light or their headlamp to get to the bathroom. Or the helpers come and they have little red lights, so they're enough to light the way, but they're just like this fuzzy glowing red dot in the distance that seems so far away, but it's not. It's so trippy, and it's like bouncing as though your stride of walking, like the helpers are ushering somebody to the bathroom and back. It's like this like glowing red little dot of fuzziness, like, and then you're like, whoa, that's so ghostly. So anyway, Justin over here, I can't see him, but I remember like I turned toward him. I was just drawn to him, and it was from the music. That's why I brought that up. The song way out there was talking directly to me. I cannot explain it. That the song for them also had these like tendrils that would reach out to whoever needed it and be like, this little snippet's for you too. Oh, chills, because I felt that a few times. Like sometimes, like there was one time where the little tendril reached out and said, lay back down. Like I had sat up and was like, I had this sort of like expectation or anticipation energy about the Shipibo shaman coming to me and it being my turn. Like there was this anticipation of it. And I forget what night or where I was in that journey, but the tendril of somebody else's song reached out, and it was for, oh God, I feel that now. It was for me, and it said, lay back down. It's not your turn. And I was like, whoa. And that humility set in of like, oh man, I overreached. I went beyond myself. Like the ego started to get in. And I feel like that was all related, because then the no self came of like, ego dropping away legitimately, not just out of humility. It just like was gone for a bit. In this moment with Justin, I turn over, and this may not have been at the same time. Time isn't real, especially on an ayahuasca journey. So maybe it wasn't even the same night of that, like those tendrils happening of like, and I look over in the pitch, I can't see anything. And I just remember saying, oh, Justinness is over there. Not even just Justin, but like, oh, Justinness. I feel it. I feel the justness over there. And that was such a deep knowing. Like, even now, my expression of myself, I'm going to cry. It's so profound, and I love to feel this way of like, the Elizabethness is like coming out right now. The Elizabethness. And then I felt that so much about everyone, like the whole next day, the rest of the retreat, however long that was, because I don't remember what night this really set in, anchored in, was like the beingness of other people. Oh, justness. And then I'm like, oh my God, the justness is so beautiful. And I felt it in my viscera. I was like, oh, the justness is so beautiful. I can't like take it. It hurts my heart space. The justness is so friggin' profoundly beautiful. I didn't know him as a person. That's not what this was about. Just like the ness-ness of things, the beingness of things is just so beautiful. And it's like, I can't describe it. And then what was weird is like on one of these, I'm still trying to understand this. And like, this was a little bit of ego maybe, like, but then I'm like, no, it was like glimpses into the future for me, because I didn't understand it at the time. This is really personal. I'm glad we're at minute 26 when most people are probably like, I don't have the stamina for this. I've already clicked away. So maybe it's just me and me talking right now. Oh, hi. So I look over at the justness. And again, this may not have been the same night that I realized the ness-ness of things, and was so profoundly taken aback and enthralled with it that I gotta get a drink of water. It's dry in here. This sweet baby slept with me last night. Yeah, I know that's not supposed to happen, but I made it happen. He needed some cuddles before I leave. So anyway, so somewhere in me, like, and through the Shipibo music coming in, I feel like it was a tendril, the good kind, where it wasn't like, sit back, sister, this isn't your time. There was something calling to me about working with energy. And I was like, what? That wasn't on my radar yet. That wasn't on my radar. And I was like, I didn't know what Reiki was even at the time. This wasn't about Reiki. Even all through the retreat, the nights of ceremony, the word Reiki, like, that never came up. That just wasn't a thing. Just the word energy came in, or this idea of energy, maybe not even the word of energy, but like this idea of like energetic exchange and how we do that in this human realm, like with and for each other without realizing it, but we know it somewhere deep on some other dimension. And then when I say dimension, I mean things that are not of the physical reality, like there's some other like thing we can't see, where like a plane of existence where things happen. I don't know. Sorry. It's the emptiness. It's the emptiness. It's the meaninglessness of not having had breakfast yet and drinking a lot of really strong coffee. So I look over in the pitch black, I can't see a thing, and I'm hearing a tendril of somebody's song come reach me as if it was meant for me. It's like literally speaking to me. It doesn't say your name, my name, but it's a knowing that it's for me. Can't describe it. And it says to help the justness right now with energy, like with changing the energy. And I was like, what? I was like, in part of me was like this deep knowing instantly, oh yeah, of course, yeah, I'll do that. But then when in hindsight, I was like, wow, what? But in hindsight, I'm also like, well, of course. But you know, it's weird. I can't describe it, all the dimensions of understanding there. But it was a deep, like, download, kind of deep inner knowing of like, oh, of course I'll help him. And so I just sort of lean over and my hands start making these intuitive movements. Again, don't even know about Reiki. Don't even understand it. I had one Reiki treatment. What year did I? Like 13, 14 years prior, where my eyes were closed the whole time, so I had no idea what the practitioner was doing, and it wasn't the touch kind of Reiki, it was the no touch, and because I just wanted to experience something that I'd heard about, literally forgot about it for 14 years. Wasn't even a part of my awareness, but somebody planted that seed for me, I guess. So anyway, I'm laying there, my hands start doing these intuitive movements. I wish I could describe it, but it was like, it's kind of like if you're working with something where you're trying to like pull it gently apart with your fingers out, like outstretched like this and curled, and you're just sort of like two hands coming together in different directions over and under each other, like dough. Maybe you're pulling it apart and pushing it together, but mostly pulling it apart. And then I would inhale, like my brain, but all of that would come into my like breath, inhale, and then I would exhale it and do it kind of over and over again. And then there was this intuitive knowing of when it was finished, like when I was, like it was complete, whatever that was. And then I had this intuitive knowing, oh, this was the weird part. This was the intense part. Somehow I knew that that was an energy, a way to like transmute energy. And I didn't even know what that word was. That hit me later, like, was I transmuting energy? And then I talked with one of the helpers. We just sort of had a little chat session. I'm like, can I talk to you about some trippy stuff? And she's like, yeah. She's seen stuff. She's heard stuff. And she was just listening, you know, not injecting her views, but she was just sort of like, I love her. I miss her. Anyway, so I just had this intuitive knowing that that's what was happening. Again, I wasn't doing it. It was a happeningness. It was not ego-based. I was just like, the universe was playing me. The universe was using me. I was the universe's like arms. I can't explain that. But then I had this knowing that in this physical reality, the universe uses us with and for each other. Course in Miracles, that's like one of the first things I read, actually. It was like, a miracle is somebody that temporarily has something and shares it with somebody who temporarily doesn't have that thing. That's all a miracle is. And so I feel like the universe was playing me as an instrument of energy transmutation. And then I had this like deep zing in my brain at the same time, or maybe even before, because again, time was weird, that was like, and this was part of the music tendril, the song, for the part that was for me was saying to me, let me get this right. Was it a question at this point? Or that was the inner question. It was a knowing about transmuting the Justiness's energy of migraine that he wanted to release, because there was this deep knowing that this ceremony was when he was going to release it. This was one of the 4 ceremonies. This particular night was the night he was going to release it. I just had that knowing. And I'm like, no, this is, a part of me was like, ooh, is this ego? Because I like am supposed to be in my own place. This isn't about that person. Because I had struggled with like understanding like energetic boundaries, which was some of my learnings through that retreat. So this one was profound in that it was like a deep knowing about somebody else. That was like, when I was just there to learn about myself, it was like the Justinness, this energy in this bed next to you, the Justinness is ready to release the energy of migraines tonight. And you're going to help him. And I was like, what? what? I'm getting chills so hard right now. And I was like, that seems like a big deal, because at least by this point I had known in my body, like, that was a life, like, because we were all there to release stuff, pretty much, or learn stuff and release stuff, whatever. And we had talked about it with each other and in group. And like, if you wanted to share, you could share what your intentions were for ceremony or what you'd learned from the night before. Like, there was a sharingness happening with us and between us, and one-on-one too, between. And so we'd talk about our traumas that we were trying to heal from. We would talk about the family, like the father, like there were a few, like, the stereotypical, I don't like to say this because I got to know them as like real deep human beings, but they came from this like Silicon Valley, like almost middle-aged white maleness, and I put ness there because it's a stereotype. It wasn't these guys. They just kind of embodied that throughout their lives, and they knew there was a depth to them they were trying to reach for their family's sake. And they're like, they would just had this such a deep desire, knowing that they could be more for their families. Oh, I'm going to cry, because they broke down and they rose up, and they stepped into that, what they knew they could be through this ceremony. Oh man, that was just a couple people's thing, It was like, you guys, it's in all of us, this depth. And so anyway, where was I going with that? So like, we were all there to release stuff, but it was our own journeys. And then for the universe to say, and there's, I swear, a reason why each of us were placed where we were in our circle, and that spot didn't change. It was very intentional. There was that feeling like there was intention to the way we were placed, and it was not alphabetical order. It was not. It was not male, female, male, female. It was not. It was ununderstandable by us, but I think the helpers and Shipibo people, like, having understood our profiles, I guess, I think it was otherworldly. They just knew how to put us or something. So anyway, the universe, whatever that was, said, you are going to help the Justinness release his migraines. He's going to release them tonight, and you're going to help him. I'm not healing him. He's going to do the healing. You're just going to help him. And so there was this, and this energetic, intuitive, like hand and breath stuff had already started happening. Like, I was doing it in the dark. Thank God it was pitch black. We were probably all doing all kinds of weird stuff. We did talk about that. Like, our bodies were moving in weird ways. Thank God it was pitch black. It would have looked like a weird... I can't even imagine. Just trying to picture that makes me laugh. So I'd already started to do that either the night before or that night. I can't remember. And then when it said, again, I didn't hear a voice. It was like telepathic. It was telepathic and visceral. And it said, you're going to help him. He's ready to release tonight. And I was like, oh my God. So... and he was in agony. He shared how much agony he was in, even through ceremony the prior night or nights. Maybe this was night 2 or 3. And then he was night 3, because, yeah, by then I had led up to this point of understanding, like, I'm supposed to work with energy exchange, what? And then it had solidified into this hand motion thing and breath thing. And that's how my body transmutes energy. And so then the next thing that came in was like almost like a from me and my higher self, not from the song. I don't know how to describe that, but it was like a deep inquiry internally that said, questioning, like, internally, like, am I ready? Oh, there's like, are you ready? Are you ready to step into this new role that you're going to play in the world by helping the Justinness? So it was like from outside, from the universe, and that song and the maestros, and like the maestros are facilitating the universe, so that was from outside myself in a way, like, he's ready to release and you're going to help him. And then this energetic stuff had already started happening. And then the inquiry came from my higher self and myself, whatever that was, not the ego, but like a deep questioning saying, are you ready to step into this? And if so, this is how you prove it. You help him. This is how you step into that new role. And it's almost like trying it on for size. You're going to help him. Are you ready to? And it was what the question was, I remember. It was like, are you ready to receive the gift of migraine? Gift? What? And it repeated and repeated. Oh my God, that's in a poem. Time repeats this unending pulse of blood in my temple. Something like that. So it repeated and repeated. Are you ready to receive the gift of migraine? Am I ready to receive the gift of migraine? And I was like, what? These are not my thoughts. And I was like, but I knew what that meant. I knew that gift was this lesson we learn by taking on something. And his nessness, his Justenness had taken on this migraine as to learn a lesson. Well, he was learning his lesson in ceremony. Apparently, he had learned it to a point where he was ready to release it. And that was the final part of his learning, was to now release that. So it had been a gift for him. Again, there was just a deep knowing that we each have these hard things in our life as gifts of growth and learnings. And I know that's a hard lesson to hear when you've had the worst of the worst happen to you, to us. And in childhood, when like tragedy happens to a child, and I have my own traumatic stuff from childhood where it's like, that's a gift. I now know in my knowingness of knowingness, deep, 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 that yes, that's true. And the universe told me it's true. Like, those are gifts of, if we're here to like transcend them by growing through them and processing them and grappling with them and grieving over them and all the things. And then we recognize it as the gift it is, because it's that whole saying, well, I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for that. You know, we've kind of lightened it up a little bit, but it's a gift. And so this thing in me said, are you ready to receive the gift of migraine? I'm sorry this is so long. I'm going to have to say /ayahuasca journey in addition to ACIM reflection, because this was a deep part of it. And I was like, part of me sat with that question. I didn't take it lightly. I was like, because something in me felt really strongly that if I say yes, I'm going to have migraines the rest of my life, that I'm going to have to work through. And I'm like, I have friends. I've had friends my whole life in my sphere who've grappled with migraines, and I've understood at some level the intensity of them. And I thought, is this why it's been in my awareness? Has this gift been like on its way to me? And for some future lesson I'm supposed to learn? And I didn't take that lightly. I was like, oh, I got to sit with this. And you know what's weird is I had, somewhere in 2012 when I was living overseas in China, I had my first ocular migraine. So I felt like when I looked in hindsight, I'm like, and it didn't come with pain. It was like a dull pain, but not like the intensity of what a lot of people feel with migraines. But the ocular, meaning the shimmery, like the aura migraine, had started to happen. And I'm like, even looking in hindsight from the ayahuasca moment, looking back in time to when it started, when I lived in China, I was like, it had started to come into my physicality. Thoughts became things, maybe, you know, I'm trying to tie it back. That's like when things like are out there and start to set in, and I'm like, oh, maybe I am supposed to take the gift of migraine. It's kind of been in my awareness. I had started to receive aura migraines. They came in waves, like a cycle of them. I'd get a whole bunch of over the course of a week or a month or even a day, and then nothing for months, you know. And I've kept a log ever since the first one, because I was trying to understand what were my triggers for them. I can't. Can't figure it out yet anyway. So anyway, and I haven't had them for a while, knock on some wood. So in that moment, I'm sitting with that question, am I ready to take on the gift of migraine? Meaning I'm going to have this for a while and it's going to be agonizing, but it's going to teach me something. And in the process, I have the privilege and the honor of helping Justinness over there release his final battle, like to like overcome it by releasing it, like in tonight's ceremony. And so it was like this, like knowing I'm going to eventually get a lesson learned from it, which will be a gift, and also knowing that I'm stepping into this life purpose of energy transmutation, energy healing, energy work, whatever that was. I still didn't understand it, but it was the first little dip your toe in, step on the path, prove that you're answering the call of, the hero's journey stuff. Like, I'm not refusing the call. I'm just going to stay here on my mat and like Justin can keep doing his thing and Justinness. And, but no, I knew that, so that there was this call feeling of like, accept the call, step into your life's purpose, prove it to the universe, prove it that you're ready. And then there was also this compassionate part, like it was so multidimensional. And then also the compassionate part of helping this Justinness like release something and learn his lesson. Now, again, it wasn't me like saying, oh, I did that for you. No, it wasn't that energy at all. It was like he was going to do it no matter what. I truly believe that. But the universe was saying, this is how humans help each other. At this point in time, you're placed right next to him in your immediate knowing of you're going through this energy work stuff and you're stepping into your purpose and you're proving to the universe that you can and will be that support for someone. That all happened in the course of like a millisecond. I bet it was a millisecond. Are you ready to accept the gift of migraine? That was loud and clear. I still remember those words, those telepathic words. And I finally am like, yeah, I'm ready. And in that moment, I fully expected that the migraine was just going to lock in and I was just going to be in agony for years, Then I was going to have to start working through something. And for whatever reason, I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Well, and then I was doing my hand motions, like sort of like on my side facing Justin. And the music, the song was, that tendril was still kind of there and it was very gentle and sweet and loving. Sometimes that first one of intensity was like, lay back down, sister. It's not your turn. It was a like, bzz, oh, okay, you're right. My ego, and I felt ugly. I felt gross. Kids these days, that's gross. I felt like, and of course that's my own shame stuff coming through too that I was working through, but it was like also the universe saying, and the universe wasn't telling me I was gross. It was like doing it in a gentle but like intense way, the intense kind of love that's like, not your turn yet. Well, you'll get your turn, not your turn yet. And then I was like, oh, I felt seen, like, oh, they saw me watching, that sort of thing. I can't describe it, guys. And so then I said, yes, I'm ready to receive the gift of migraine. And I turn over and I start just intuitively doing the like over and over again until I just had this knowing that his migraine was gone. Like it was gone. And I didn't know how I knew. I didn't see it with my eyeballs leave into the void. There's nothing physical about this knowing. It was just an intense knowing. Like I just knew when to stop, and I knew without a doubt, 110% without a doubt, that he was no longer in pain. His migraines were gone. And by this point, the Shipibo shaman was right next to us. And at some point, like I think I was just finishing up this energy dance, for lack of a better way to describe it, right as the shaman was like scooching in front of Justiness. Again, can't see, I can just kind of hear the movements of shuffling and then the song starting for him. And at that moment, I felt like I knew, I didn't hear him, I don't think, but I felt like I knew, like I felt his body go, like that deep exhaustion where like an energy was released and he was like a deflated balloon in the best way, like just like like melted into his mat. And the shaman was starting to sing, and that's when I must have heard a breath or something. And at that moment I knew, I'd already known, but then I knew for real, like, yeah, that was the migraine leaving him. He is free from that pain, and it'll never return for him. I just knew it. He had learned whatever he was meant to learn from having that gift of migraine. And at that moment, I was like, I was just waiting. I'm like, here it comes, because I was ready to receive it. It never came, but I was still waiting. Okay, I'm going to fast forward to the story. I can't just leave a cliffhanger. I know, we're at 51 minutes. I'm sorry, I can't leave a cliffhanger. So anyway, the next day in the sharing circle, what are you sharing? Meow. That was my water interlude. You get a little kitty action. So the next day in circle, we're sharing. I had kind of forgotten about this, but I journaled about it. So then when I journal about it, it's sort of like, okay, got it out of my brains, got it out of my memory. I wanted to remember this, got it out. But I hadn't really processed it yet. It was just like a blah documentation kind of thing, not like whoa kind of thing. The night before was the whoa. And so anyway, we get around the circle, and then at some point, the Justinness starts talking, and he's like talking about his experience from the night before his journey. And he's like, my migraines left. My migraines are gone. I can't explain it. They left. They're gone. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think he said something like being, hopeful they'll stay gone. He probably didn't say cautiously optimistic. Who knows? Maybe he did. And I was like, what? Even though the night before I was 110% without a doubt, like, oh yeah, he just released them, they're gone. And like, I felt like such a just joy for him in that moment of like the Justinness of things. And I'm just like, oh my God, the Justinness is so beautiful, and his healing, like, so beautiful. And it wasn't like a feeling of like, oh, I did that. It was like, it was not of me. There was no attachment to me being part of that equation. And honestly, I was like, I did have the thought, like, I just did a thing out of intuition and out of the universe telling me all these things I thought it was telling me. But I honestly thought, maybe it's all true. And then I had a later knowing that the universe was like, everything's true, everything, all of it. And like, but in the moment I was like, not attached to that. So like, even in the next days sharing where we were like, I heard that, I was like, oh my God, it was true. Of course it was true. I knew it. And then part of my like awake self was like, my awake is in the sense of like not in ceremony at that moment, was like, whoa. And I still didn't have the migraine. And then I had this knowing. I kind of had it then the night before, but then I really had it the next day of like, that was a lesson for me. Like, if I step into this path, this purpose of like energy work and exchange and transmutation and like being a witness for people, like helping them heal themselves. They're doing the healing, but like being the support system. to try to understand energy a little better, then like I have to be willing to like work with it. I have to be willing to like get messy with the energy, to like feel it. I have to be willing to feel it. And then the knowing for me is that I'm not taking it on. It won't set into me. I am always protected. I am always a sovereign entity, even though we're all one. While I'm here on this earth realm, I have a sovereignness to me, meaning I am protected. I'm protected. But I have to be willing to get messy with the energy, to really get it, to really feel it, but knowing that it's not going to be my dis-ease, my illness. It won't come with me. I'm going to have to feel it. I'm going to have to be willing to feel it, to work with it. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Do I want that? But then in the name of somebody's healing, hell yeah, I want that. I knew that I had all the capacity in the world to do that with other people, and it wasn't going to bring harm to myself, because we can't pour from an empty cup, right? We are here to heal ourselves, and in doing so, we help others heal. And that was a deep knowing. And since then, I've felt that over and over and over in my like Reiki practice, in my Qigong practice. Like, it's like working with energy, I feel it move through me as when it's being released from my clients, I feel the energetic movements of things in my body. I don't know how to describe it other than like sometimes it's waves of nausea, not pleasant, but they don't make me want to stop. I just know that, oh gosh, ride the wave. And that's when I think back to my Vipassana retreat. That was a training ground for me of like ride the wave. Ride that wave of sitting with these energies, and I think tying it all together with menopause and hit early in my life, like, and deep. I've had hot flashes for going on 12 years now, and I'm only 47. Like, what? my doctor said when I was 30, yeah, you started menopause, and I was like, I'm only 30, like barely, like still 29, 30. I'm like, what even is that? And so I've been on this journey of like, I have like a lot of intense hot flashes, and I just learned to ride it, like can't fight it. And so I think it's all related for me, and this whole working with energy, and then the Justinness, like, are you ready to receive the gift of migraine? Like, I have to be willing to take it on, but ultimately knowing I'm not really going to take it on. I just have to be willing to step into that for the sake of being a witness for somebody. I have to be willing to get messy, and then knowing that I'm always protected. And a lot of Reiki practitioners out there will be like, there's a whole spectrum. I'm learning of like, because there's no one right way, especially not with energy stuff. And so some people, the way they work with energy, they have to go into a whole protection bubble, meditation, rituals, saging, blah, 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 blah. I love saging, by the way. I love smudging. I do that, but it's more like a scent thing to like really shift our energy into one of going inward and feeling protected, whether it's like physically doing it or not. I just love the vibe of it. So I do some things, but ultimately I know if I just jumped straight into a session without doing anything, I'm still fully protected and I'm ready to go. So anyway, that's just the full story of like, not the full story, oh my God, that's just a snippet of like, if I tie it back to A Course in Miracles, my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. There's an equanimity to things that I've learned, or I'm starting to feel again, that I felt totally in ceremony, where it's like, we are all one, everything is equal, this like, and the gift of like things. So it's like these tragedies, these really bad things in our lives, these hard things, these childhood traumas, these relationship traumas in adulthood, like I know I can't speak the words to people in this real 3D reality earth material world space to say, oh, your trauma's a gift. Oh, this hard thing you're going through, why don't you see that as a gift? Hell no, I'm not gonna, it's not real for people right then. When you're in the throes of it, when I was in the throes of it, don't freaking tell me it's a gift. Holy crap. Have the humility. And it's my reminder, like, no, that's not the message at that point in time. The message is, I'm being a witness. I'm being a pillar of support. I'm witnessing. I'm here as support. And then later, when they start to recognize it, or later when I started to recognize it, I was ready to start hearing those messages of like, yeah, doesn't it feel like a gift? Like what you learned and released, and like what it brought you into this higher vibrational space, and like this deep visceral understanding of how all the pearls in the sky of all the flights coming into land. You know, I lived in LA, so you always see that string of pearls over LAX, like coming into land toward the ocean. And like they're all lining up in the sky, like coming in from different directions, and they're gonna land in you, and you can look back up and see how it was inevitable. And so at some point I was ready to hear those messages, but in the throes of it, no, we're not ready to hear that. Shut your mouth, you woo-woo person who's not taking my pain seriously. Like, it's serious to me, it hurts. So anyway, this whole idea of it being a gift is that moving into that equanimical space, is that a word? Again, turning nouns to adjectives. Full circle, baby. Justinness. Equanimity, equanimical. I don't know. I finally brought it full circle. You knew I could do it. And you're out there going, clap, 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 one-handed clap. Can you hear the sound of one hand clapping? Anyway, you're out there going, she did it. She brought it home. ACIM even. Nouns to adjectives. Not being able to say words. She did it. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. Like, I'm starting to really like remember from ceremony just the feeling of how that true equanimity of like, I can see pain as a gift. I can see it as the gift it is. Not always though, but on different dimensional levels, different energetic levels, it's there. And everything, everywhere all at once is really true. I love the name of that movie because it reminds me that, yeah, everything everywhere is happening all at once. There's a happeningness to things that rises and falls. It pops into awareness, pops out. Like it's like this lava lamp energy of like, it's all at once, contained in this little lava lamp of things rise up and they squish back down and turn into other balls and ayahuasca. It really did drop the veil and really helped me. Like I had these deep understandings somewhere in me. And then the journey, the plant medicine journey, just like blasted that into my consciousness. Like, and it solidified. It wasn't just this like, is this how things are? And I loved poetry, so I loved writing about it and thinking about it, but I didn't really see it in my real life. And now it's like starting to solidify and like thoughts become things. I really believe, and then like feeling energy. I feel it in my body. The body's real. I'm feeling energy move through me. I'm sorry, I'm covering my microphone. And it must be 6:00 a.m. The kitty feeder went off. This song plays, and then I just heard the cats jump down from where they were laying, and like, they're gonna run downstairs and start chomping on their food. It's like Pavlovian, but for cats. So anyway, thanks for listening. This was a really deep one for me because I'd never shared that experience from ceremony, because a lot of us who go through ceremony, and I've heard others talk about it, like you just don't talk about it because you don't know how, and it's not going to land in people the way it landed in you. So why bother? And so, because it's your solo journey, it's your solo learnings. And the reason I'm doing it here is because I have this phone I'm talking into. You're not right here in front of me. Even though if somebody's ready to talk about it, oh, I'm ready. I've had a couple people come to me and say, I think I heard you did this. Can we talk about it? And I'm like, we can talk about it. And then I will answer questions from my experience, and try to say, like, it's different for everyone, but my experience. So that's just that humility reminder of, like, we're all on our own unique journeys, learning our own lessons, learning, like, recognizing things as gifts on some timeline that's only our own. And sometimes in our lifetime, we would never come to recognize our traumas, our hardships as gifts. And that's a learning too for our higher soul self. And maybe your kids, maybe somebody downstream in your family, remember ancestral healing? Maybe they're the ones that are supposed to look back and be like, I'm going to heal this theme that runs through my family. And then maybe you're on the other side eventually going, she did it. Look, guys, look, fam, she did it. Oh, I couldn't do it in my lifetime because I just didn't know it needed to be done. So I perpetuated things out of just sheer ignorance in the best sense, not dumbness, not stupidity, the not knowingness of ignorance. I love that meaning of ignorance, by the way. That's why I use the word, but I always have to clarify because in our world, our culture, people are like, what, you call me dumb? No. You know not what you do. I know not what I do. Like when I was ignorant to things, when I was asleep to things. That's what I mean. So anyway, she did it. So at some point there will be a learning in your ancestry, you know. Maybe it is in your lifetime. Maybe it isn't. I feel like, though, I keep hearing this too, but I really feel it. Those of us alive today, no matter how old we are on that journey of we're getting close, or we already are on the path, or we were already there and done did it. Even if we're older, we have this inkling of a knowing that we're supposed to heal something in this lifetime. Don't you feel it? Yeah, and then maybe you'll even see it as a gift while you're still here. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. And here I am still making meaning. That's my own journey through A Course in Miracles. But I do see the equanimity of things. I get glimpses of it and it feels so good. It feels like so true. You look around, you're like, the emotional charge like dissipates. Like I'm getting ready to make a birthday card for my mom. So I have all my markers out and I had painted this. I showed in a different video, like I make these textures on like art paper, and so I like did this splattery like sponge painting, and then I just cut it down and folded it, and I'm gonna make a card for her because we're going to breakfast or lunch today. I better get busy. And I thought, oh, I'll make her a homemade birthday card. That her birthday was last week, so that's what I'm doing now. So I better go. Man, thanks for listening. I feel like I want to go back and read my ayahuasca journal. There's some stuff in there. I hope you have a beautiful Sunday. It is Sunday, yeah. Enjoy your day off if you have a day off. And just like, and it's winter time for a lot of us, like in the snow perhaps, or the cold. I hope you can get cozy today and just like bask in your nestness of being. Like just what it feels like to be you. And like the joy sometimes you feel of just existing. Like the existingness of the you-ness. Like this expression of you bubbling up in the lava lamp for a while. And back down. Yeah.